sides are sandwiched together. In a well-made pencil, that means the graphite core is directly in the middle of the two super shafts. Two halves of the super shaft. I'm not seeing that with this pencil. What that means is, when I sharpen this pencil using this device, I'm probably going to get something that I call a scooped collar top, which means that because the graphite is a little bit off-center, the exposure of the pencil point is going to reveal more graphite on one side than the other. Does that make sense to you? What I'm trying to do is I'm conditioning you for a likely outcome of this pencil pointing experience. Because I don't want to have any cries of anguish or sudden outbursts of despair in my work area. Katie, let's put a point on this pencil. It's a spring-loaded extendable faceplate mechanism. I'm rotating the crank handle and I'm shaving off the end of the cedar shaft and shortening the pencil. The springs are going to draw this guide plate into the body of the sharpener. What this means is I won't have to stabilize the pencil with my own hand like you would with like a wall-mounted handkerchief. This is good because I'm actually going to use my free hand to stabilize the sharpener on this horizontal purpose. Now this sharpener ships with a removable table clamp. But I never use table clamps because I like the flexibility of being able to remove the sharpener based on lighting conditions and like how intoxicated I am. It's a joke, of course. I would never sharpen a pencil while intoxicated. Yes, I'm quite sure. Are you sure? Damn Skippy. For those of you who are interested in the mechanisms involved in the similar ink sharpener, you can examine the sharpening mechanism. And here you see why it is called a single burr, because there's only one rotating burr cylinder plate, whereas a sharpener like the El Casco actually has two rotators. So the pencil point is going to be exposed via this cutout. There's a window here that exposes the tip of the pencil to the rotating cylinder blades, and you can tell already that one reason I've exposed the blade mechanism is because we realized there's cedar left over from previous jobs. Fortunately, I requested all the tables I work at have a hole in the cylinder. So our first step is to use a soft bristle toothbrush to clean the cylinder blades.
Do you have to oil it or anything like that?
I don't have to oil these. I mean, I would eventually once I've used them a lot, but I'm so fickle I usually just move on. Now for the cedar residue that's not being taken off by the soft bristle toothbrush, this is why we carry wooden toothpicks. We use those to clean the cylinder blades. And why do we use wooden toothpicks instead of thumbtacks or something like that?
So you don't scratch it?
Exactly. Because we don't want to compromise the integrity of the cylinder blade. So we will use the toothpicks to clear any obstructions in the cylinder blades. You see some of it's a little caked on there. And one last little bit here. And now, ladies and gentlemen, you can tell her cylinder blade is clean. This is a relatively new device, so it's still capturing the light. This thing is ready to put a point on a pencil. So, we insert it into the casing, continue to lock it in. Now, without any further ado, put a point on your pencil. Here we go. See how it's being drawn into the device?
How do you know when to stop?
You know when to stop because A, the crank handle rotation starts moving as cleanly as it did before it engaged with the pencil, which tells me that there's no longer any cedar that's being engaged by the cylinder blade. It's finished shaping the pencil. The other way to tell is that the faceplate is no longer being drawn into the body of the sharpener. And why is this? It's because it is no longer shortening the pencil. Because the sharpening process is complete, it's no longer truncating the length of the pencil. Now, Now, remember what I told you about off-center graphite core. Okay, steel yourself. Hold on. Exactly as I thought. Because I know a shitload about pencil sharpeners. You are dealing here with what we call a scooped collar top. You know what? I'll light it up. Maybe this will. So ladies and gentlemen, you see how this side of the pencil, you see more graphite exposed than this side? You see how the top of the collar is higher on this side than this side? That's because the graphite is off-center. I mean, every fiber of my being wants to just destroy this pencil, like physically snap it in half. You understand what I'm saying?
Feel better.
The pencil's not sharp.
Yes.
Exactly. It's like they always say, a good craftsman always blames his tool. Now, what I'll do to make it up to you is finish this point on sandpaper. Put a really fine point on it. This pencil will more or less be unusable, but it will serve as a display object, delighting generations to come.
Yay.
So, if you want to finish a pencil using sandpaper, sandpaper is controversial because it can introduce irregular divots and irregularities, please make note of that phrase, into the graphite of a pencil. So for this reason, you shouldn't use anything less than like 220 grit sandpaper. Alright? So what you do is, I beg your pardon. I can limit that.
It is time for the second annual gathering of the Beardos.
We are going to try to finish shaving the pencil point on this sandpaper, right?
Which is the part that hurts you big.
Well, like many hand crank sharpeners, this has a stopper inside it that prevents over sharpening because you don't want to have an irregular pin tip, the kind that like shatters when you put the point to the page. So finish the job yourself. So I'll see you in like 20 minutes.
Bye.
Does somebody want my number?
I'm videoing. I don't know if there'll be any audio, but.
All right. Well done, sir.
Maybe the tubing's to put the pencil in.
You see how sharp this is? Right? I finished it with sandpaper.
What grit are we talking about?
220. That's the lowest I would use. I mean, if you can go higher, you should. Right? Let's protect your point before we bag your shavings.
Oh, lovely.
This is vinyl plumbing tubing. It fits over the shaft of a number 2 pencil. What's wrong with my box cutter? I checked the bag that had this in it.
Now, would you ever check the rest of your equipment, or do you carry that with you?
I carry it on, just because like I don't want to get it fucked up, you know. This thing literally costs $400. I don't want to take a risk.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess around with that.
My box cutter is all gummed up. Does anyone else have a box cutter?
I don't have a box cutter.
Or like a
Leatherman in the room. I mean,
so if anyone has a pocket knife on, they could use a pocket knife.
if you think it's made of Rees, yeah.
One time I injured myself in my pencil sharpening business was using scissors to cut vinyl tubing. I will never do that again. Like, I really learned my lesson, you know? Hold this. Here we go. Alright, see that? So what we need is, you know what, I'm just going to cut it straight on this tabletop because it's already a little bit.
We won't tell anyone.
Just enough length of this tubing to fit all the way around the exposed cedar and the exposed graphite of the pencil. So we're loosening it up a little, straightening it out. The stuff is a little bendy because it's been heaped up all this time, but it should be straight enough.
Bearded gentlemen, I believe that this has a little bit of room for crouching and or kneeling. Front rowers,
See what we got here. You can buy this stuff at like any hardware store. Yeah. The way I ship pencils, you want to see something? You're wondering how I've sharpened almost 500 pencils for people literally all around the world, and I've never had a single one returned for breakage and shipping? Because of these. Shattered plastic tubes.
Nice.
Caps on the end. We gotta make sure we have enough here.
Oh, you do a combination.
Yeah. I really thought this through. It's $15 domestic, $17 international. Well, my original business model was to be like a knife sharpener, where someone would send me a pencil and then I would sharpen it, and then like a couple months later they would send it back, and soon I'd make like $100 over the life of the pencil. The sad fact of the matter is, I get these pencils so fucking sharp that most people just use them as conversation pieces. They leave it in the display tube, you know, so. Okay, we still have to label your pencil, but we also have to bag your shavings.
picture the DC area C monkeys. All DC area C monkeys together.
Shavings are part of your pencil, and as such, they should be returned to you with your pencil. Just stands to reason, right?
An open mic night this evening. We'll extra strap that on time.
Now, this is something interesting. Okay, you see the light color of these shavings, these curly Q shavings? From whatever wood they're using. I mean, it's probably cedar, but it's not redwood, not red cedar. Now, compare this color, right, the color of this wood, to these pencils. Where are they? Last summer, John Hodgman bought me some nice 100-year-old Dixon pencils.
Wow.
Back when Dixons were made in the United States, right? The Joseph Dixon Company. Now you can see, the nice thing about these pencils, this is nice, old, probably American red cedar. And when you sharpen one of these, the shavings are like orangish red. Unlike this, you know, bleached out stuff. So these make nice. Anyway, these are good pencils.
Do you have a prize pencil back home?
A prize pencil? I don't use pencils. Because I'm left-handed. And if you're left-handed and you write with pencils, you get schmutz all over the side of your hand. I don't fuck around with pencils.
Are there any other uses for the shavings that you've come across?
I'm glad you asked, because in my book, which is coming out in a couple months. I list possible uses for 3 different types of shavings. Curly Q shavings associated with a single burr hand crank sharpener. Classic ribbon of shavings that we associate with a single blade pocket sharpener. Like these, right? And then also the absolutely pulverized and dust-like shavings associated with the El Casco double burr hand crank. There are actually many uses for pencil sharpeners. Okie doke. So we've secured your pencil point, and we've bagged your shavings. All that's left to do is label everything according to my preferred indexing system. This.
Molly Lewis took a picture of me photo.
This. Alright. Here's the information that we're going to record. Yeah. I literally run a pencil sharpening business. Yeah. Job number. That's where I keep track of my jobs. 0, 2, 3, 5, 5. What? Is it really lucrative? I've made, it's not enough to live on, but it's probably more than anyone else has ever made hand sharpening pencils. Yeah, so it's more lucrative than I thought it would be. Let's just say that. Okay. Job number, and now listen, we're going to do 2 labels, okay? One for the pencil, one for the shavings. Because if I'm ever working, you know, like this, where I'm at a party or something and I'm doing a bunch of jobs, you want to make sure that the shavings don't get mismatched with the pencil or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? You know, it's like an orphan or something.
Poor little shavings.
What's today's date? Can anyone remember?
Friday. 24th.
It is?
It's the 24th.
Lighting condition, artificial. Pencil, number 2, yes. Sharpener operator, DR, stands for David Rees. Sharpness, 8 out of 10. Now sharpener. Pocket regular, pocket long point. Knife, single burr regular, single burr long point, El Casco, or little shaver. Single burr long point, SBL. That's what I'm circling on this label, okay? Single burr long. Now I make a duplicate label for the shavings. 2, 24, 12. Artificial, single burr long, DR, 2, 10. Now usually everybody gets a certificate of sharpening, but I ran out of time coming on this cruise, so your label will have to serve as your certificate. It has my initials on it, so anyone in the game will recognize my initials.
In the game.
Frankly, anyone in the game will recognize my handiwork, so you don't even need that. But just for redundancy's sake.
You must be certain about this.
Here are your shavings.
Yeah, but you can never change your facial. You got very nice handwriting.
Thank you.
Very lovely.
Here's your pencil. Thank you very much, Katie.
Thank you.
Enjoy the mustache form.
I will.